What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Down Once More. I'm not joined by Rayleigh today. I am joined by a special guest, my brother, Brad. I will let him introduce himself if he wants to tell anything about himself, but I will force him to say his favorite three musicals before we jump into things. So welcome.
Hey, thank you. I'm happy to be here. As Matt said, I am Brad, and that's it.
That's
Um,
it.
but my three favorite musicals are pretty easy. It goes Les Mis, Spamalot, Book of Mormon.
Nice. Solid choices. I have
Yeah,
not seen Spam a lot. That's the only one I haven't seen, but you suggested it on the YouTube comment, so it's on our wheel now. So it will be an episode at some point in the future. And potentially, if you want to join us on that episode to discuss that, you're welcome to do so. Um,
happily.
in the vein of Spam a lot, which I actually don't know if it is or not, I recently came across a musical called Something's Rotten, which is like a spoof on some Shakespeare stuff and their song about really hating Shakespeare. It's interesting. I know you prefer to see the musical before listening to the uh,
Yeah,
cast album, but listen to the cast album while I mowed. It was relaxing. A fun down once more podcast fun fact: the first actual episode that was recorded was with Brad. We did a test. I don't remember if Rayleigh, I think it was before Rayleigh and I had even done a test Zoom when it was just in its early stages. And we were going to bank one, and Brad and I recorded an episode. I think we did our top 5 favorite musical songs or something.
so
And I do have that recording somewhere. So at some point that might be released too. But it was before I had all the super fun setup. We are back to recording on Zoom. So apologies if our faces don't look as beautiful as normal. Brad has a laptop that's old as shit. And so he cannot run Riverside. So we're back recording on Zoom. So if there's any issues, blame Brad. Send him nasty messages in the
if you can
comments.
find me,
Yeah.
technically, I think the computer is older than shit. Um,
Mm, okay. It's fair. Um, but what we're doing for today's episode, since we're not doing a musical review, because Rayleigh and I's schedules did not work out this time, we are going to be doing a draft of movies that have been adapted from books, based on books. So it can be inspired by the story, based on this book, etc. We're going to discuss some of the ground rules. So basically, the ones we have set in stone are one movie from each book series. So if you were to take the Deathly Hallows part 1 or whatever, that wipes the entire Harry Potter series off the board, and the other person can't take anything from it as well. So we're not doing anything duplicate. We're doing completely separate. We're doing 5 picks each. We will go back and forth on it. We're going to spin a wheel to figure out who goes first. So we'll do that in a minute to keep it completely random. I'm not going to be my brother, so I don't have to be courteous and let the guests go first. We can leave it up to chance. And we're not going to do necessarily the most faithful book adaptation, but what our favorites are. Um, I am of the opinion, I believe we should not include any comic book adaptations in this. I think that doesn't count. That's not
that's
based on a
cheating.
book. That's
That's
its
cheating.
own thing.
Yeah,
So
for
none of
sure.
that. So we're going to do 5 picks of the rounds, and then we will also list a movie that we think is the worst adaptation and the as a bonus, and then we'll also do what we think is one of the best or our favorite TV series that was adapted from a book. So without further ado, I'm going to spin the wheel. Or are there any other rules you wanted to propose or debate or anything like that? Anything else you think should be included?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, and we're not saying that we have to have read the books. We just know it's based on a book, because my draft pool shrinks considerably if I say I have to have read the book that is based on first.
but
So,
but kudos if you have read
yeah,
the book.
yeah. And so if we pick something you're like, that adaptation sucks, let us know in the comments. That's how I fish for engagement. Okay. I am going to spin the wheel. I put our names on here like 4 times each. We're just going to spin. Whoever it lands on gets first pick.
Yeah, this doesn't look rigged at all.
That just back and forth, back and forth. Mm.
Come on.
Okay. There you go.
Let's go.
You get
Let's
first
go.
pick.
All right.
And we're not doing snake draft style because with 2 people, that's
Yeah,
stupid.
it's
So we're just going to go
ridiculous.
back and forth. So with the first pick overall,
So
what you
with the
going with?
first pick, I'm gonna go with one that I think would come off high off on your list. So I'm gonna sneak it for my own. I'm gonna go Fellowship of the Rings.
Mm, that
Yeah.
that was what I had number one too, and I had the Fellowship as well. I think that is the best out of that trilogy as an adaptation. All the other ones kind of fall off, and yeah,
Yeah. I There's
mm,
something about like Peter Jackson made all the right choices in uh building that world, taking Tolkien's vision and making it a reality using New Zealand. It was just beautiful visually. The introduction and meeting the characters was fantastic. And for all the haters that say he should have kept in Tom Bombadil, forget you. Tom Bombadil sucks. He sucked in the book. He would have sucked in the movie. The Fellowship is great. That's my first pick.
I was having an argument with someone, and I forget who it was. They were talking about Tom Bombadil, and I said, "Why are you upset that they didn't include them running naked through the forest in there?" And they're like, "They were never naked." I said, "They 100% were." I remember that, and I'm like, "What the fuck is going on in this book?" As that happened, found
Ask
it.
them
I
to
was right,
define a
of
Barrow
course.
White.
Yeah,
What
it,
the hell is a Barrow White? Nobody knows. Nobody cares. It doesn't belong in the movie. Get it out of there.
yeah, and that's why I hope like Amazon's doing the Rings of Power series right now, and I didn't think it was as bad as everyone was saying it was. I thought it was good for what it was. Yeah, it wasn't perfect. It doesn't touch Jackson's adaptations, but he can't remake those movies. Still hold up so well. They just the special effects and everything that with Weta Digital on those and the practical effects and CGI mix
Yeah.
is better than stuff that we're getting in movies now.
Yeah.
So,
What they did with miniatures was mind blowing. And
mm-hmm,
like really, Minas Tirith was probably the most impressive miniature. Bigature, they called them because they
yeah,
were so
I remember that.
massive. But yeah, absolutely groundbreaking. The only thing that would knock Fellowship in looking at the trilogy overall is you don't get as much Smeagol Gollum and Andy
Mm-hmm.
Serkis is it was one of the best performances I've seen in a digital um acting. And but the Fellowship it as a book adaptation, one of the best there is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Andy Serkis, he crushes those roles where he does the mocap. Like he did
Mm-hmm.
the main ape in the Planet of the Ape prequel
Yeah.
movies, which
Yeah.
I thought all of those were fantastic. And he does such a good job with those. And he's just a great character actor too.
You could even say that the Avatar movies wouldn't have been what they are without the groundbreaking work with motion capture that Weta Digital did for
Yeah.
the Lord of the Rings movies. So hats off to Peter Jackson for the Lord of the Rings. Though I'm assuming we'll talk about him again later.
Yes, I'm assuming so as well. Um
Lord of the Rings off the board. Suck
Lord
it.
of the Rings off the board. So I had a feeling that whoever that landed on was gonna get it. This is hard now. I'm gonna go my first pick. I'm gonna go with Fight Club. Uh,
Solid
that
choice.
but this is gonna be bad because I don't even know how to pronounce the author's name. But Chuck Palahniuk's, it's really a novella.
Can you
It's
say that again?
tiny.
Can you
Nope,
say that again?
I'm not. Nope,
Chuck who?
I'm not. Because we're
Charles.
not even really supposed to be talking about this one. But that movie,
It's the number one
it
rule.
differs from the novella a decent amount, but really keeps the spirit and the essence of it. And
Did you just say the novella?
novella, because it's tiny. It's tiny.
Yeah, yeah, that totally sounds like something that came from your brain and not the internet.
It is. I didn't even look that one up. I knew that one. Got the book on my bookshelf. So
All
suck
right.
it.
All right.
Um,
Differs from the novella.
yeah, it does. It does. Um, but yeah, just overall, just grittiness, intensity, a great twist, which we're not going to discuss. You got Bob's bitch tits in it. You have one of Jared Leto's really good roles. Back when he was still primarily 30 Seconds to Marsing. Um, but yeah, Edward Norton, Brad Pitt, Helena Bonham Carter, fantastic performances, fantastic movie.
Can
That's
you
going to be my
name
first pick.
can you name a bad performance from Helena Bonham Carter?
So I'm not a big Helena Bonham Carter fan,
Oh, what?
but
Ah,
no, I don't care for her in the Alice in Wonderland movies that Tim Burton did.
I did see those. You know, she was married to Tim Burton for
Yeah.
decades.
Are they still married?
No, they
That's
got a
why
divorce.
she's in pretty much all of his movies.
Yeah,
But
it's like Judd Apatow Tao,
mm-hmm,
casting his wife.
yeah.
Um, all right.
Thankfully, they're
Well,
both good
look,
actresses. James Gunn's doing that with his fiance. She's in a lot of his newer projects now.
I
Jessica
uh,
Holland.
I recently talked about Fight Club with a friend because I was talking about Meatloaf, the singer,
Ah. Mm-hmm.
and my buddy was just like, I don't know who that is. And I said, Robert Paulson. He's
Yeah.
like, I don't know that name either. I was like, from Fight
Oh
Club.
man.
He's like, who is that? I was like, Bob had bitch tits. I
Yeah.
don't know what
Yeah.
to tell you.
There's
But it came up because I was telling him, I saw this a long time ago, but do you know what the best safe word for a couple is? Meatloaf. Because it means I would do anything for love, but I won't do that.
I like it. I like it.
So Fight Club, that's a great choice, but man, you really screwed up because you left Harry Potter wide open.
I don't like Harry Potter.
Wow.
I don't
Well,
care. I never read any of the books. And
big mistake.
yeah, I know, and like on a graphic, I know it's gonna look bad. Like
Yeah,
you're,
I'll kick
does
your
that mean you're
ass.
taking Harry Potter?
Yeah, we're going
Okay,
Prisoner of Azkaban.
okay,
So there's a sweet spot with the Prisoner of Azkaban because the kids have like grown up enough to where they're better actors. Um, but the book was still short enough for them to get all the real meat into the movie. As you
mm,
get to the later uh movies, they start to drift more away from the books. They can't fit as much in, and it starts to impact the story. But with Prisoner of Azkaban, all the right choices were made. It was great. The twist at the end, it's great. You see the Dementors. Dementors are as far as like children's books and movies go, Dementors are terrifying. Uh, as can
worst thing
be,
in prison.
yeah, it's the worst thing in prison. Prison Mike will tell you the worst thing about
That's right.
prison was the Dementors. So yeah, I got Fellowship 1, Prisoner of Azkaban 2.
Yeah, that's fair. I have wanted to be writing these down as I did it, so then to make my life easier for me with graphics after the fact. Um, yeah. See, I think my problem with Harry Potter, we weren't allowed to read them or watch them growing up. And then I just never did. And so I watched the movies for the first time a couple years ago. And just the early ones when they're still kid actors and they suck just didn't grab me. And then we binged them. We watched them pretty close back to back. And it just, none of them really resonated with me. And I thought about throwing it on my list, but that would be disingenuous because I don't give a shit about those movies.
So I think it's really interesting. I think it's Max that's doing a Harry Potter series,
Yeah.
and they're going to film it over a massive amount of time. And it's crazy to me because the books aren't that old, the movies aren't that old, and it's a whole
Mm-hmm.
new reboot. It's just part of this like constantly remaking cycle that we're in.
Yeah.
But uh I do think it's they'll do it as a TV series, which I think in some ways is a better way to adapt books because you don't have to make as many choices for what to cut. I
Right.
get the concerns about acting. I first read Harry Potter I read the first Harry Potter. It was assigned to me in Bible college. So
Interesting.
yeah. Uh, and I was like, this is pretty good. And then I read all the rest of the books. And I was like, these are actually solid. And what I love about Harry Potter is they're entertaining, but they're perfect to just like capture like young imaginations. And they're great for kids, but they're still enjoyable for adults. It kind of hits a uh,
Yeah.
broad audience.
Well, and I think that's what will be interesting with the Max series is like you even said after Prisoner of Azkaban, it got kind of where the later ones they
Mm-hmm.
got the more things started dropping off. And so it'll be interesting for them to rope those themes, those storylines, those plots into the series. But the whoever they cast, those news characters are just set up to fail.
Oh yeah.
Like they're gonna get one, then all the J.K. Rowling being controversial now and everything with kind of just being a
I also think like the first book isn't that long. How are you going to get a full TV series out of book one? And like, we're going to get really sick of watching a bunch of 10-year-olds
but that's the thing
for
now
a
with
full
most
series.
TV seasons, they're doing like 6 to 8 episode seasons. So that's not a ton of time. You could
That's
probably
true. That's
flesh
true.
it out some. And I
Maybe
don't know if there's supporting documents or things like the appendices in Lord of the Rings or whatever
not
that
as
you
much.
could
Not
pull
as
stuff
much.
into. No.
Though the appendices that that gets people in trouble. They got Peter Jackson in trouble too, but we'll save that for
Yeah.
later. What's your second pick?
My second pick, which I just rewatched it because I had it on my list, but I'm like, I don't remember enough about it. Um, is No Country for Old Men,
Mm,
which is based
damn
on
it.
the Cormac McCarthy novel,
Of
which I
course
have
it is.
not read. I've,
R.I.P. R.I.P.
and so just fantastic. I forget what they call them now. It's like a neo western or something that's more modern.
Not quite a
Um,
novella.
no, but Taylor Sheridan, a lot of his stuff like Yellowstone and Hell or High Water and Wind River are kind of that same vibe, that same era, kind of a little more modern day western. But Javier Bardem in that movie is just an absolutely like brutal and terrifying villain, but he's so like monotone. He doesn't do a lot. He's very like slow pace, calculating, and he's fantastic. Josh Brolin gives a fantastic performance. Tommy Lee Jones gives a fantastic performance.
It's
Woody
so
Harrelson,
good.
what he's in, fantastic performance. It's just it won so many awards, and
It's
from what I
incredible.
was seeing, is it's a very faithful adaptation of the book too.
Yeah,
Um,
it cut out some of the fluff. It kind of tightened the narrative a bit. I mean, but Cormac McCarthy is one of the greatest American authors of all time. Um, and No Country is one of his best books, but that adaptation is incredible. It's the Coen brothers, for Pete's sake. Like
yeah,
the same directors as The Big Lebowski, as Hail Caesar, Burn After Reading. Like they took on Cormac McCarthy, and that pairing, fantastic, absolutely
mm-hmm,
amazing. I hate
yeah.
you for taking that.
Sorry. Sorry.
Um,
Well, you still have a better list than me. I'm gonna have the
oh,
more
I
adult list so far. But I saw they did announce that they're doing an adaptation of Blood Meridian, which I
yeah,
saw is one of his that they've
it's gonna be brutal.
yeah,
That
that's
book
gonna
is
be intense. But
Yeah, that book is intense.
and
But
they
The
did
Road
the
was also
road.
good, right? The Road was also good. But I thought
Yeah,
the
I
Road the
didn't
book
get
was
through the
better than the
road.
movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen the movie. And I couldn't get into the book. But
I read
I
that
know.
thing in a night,
I
so
know you
it was
gave it to me to
incredible.
read, and
Yeah, I
I
want it
didn't.
back.
I
You're
did
not
give
gonna
it
read
back.
it. You never
I
gave
did
it
give it
back.
back.
You
Yeah,
never
I
gave it
did.
back. No,
Hmm.
I don't have that book because I never got it back.
I don't believe you.
Look in your shelf because it's not on mine.
Okay, I'll look at my shelf.
All right, so
Um, your turn for your third pick.
I'm torn. So I'm just gonna go with go with what is one of my favorite movies of all time, The Godfather. The Godfather. I know you haven't seen it, so it's
I
I'm
have
probably
seen
gonna
it.
take you have seen it? Okay.
I did watch it. Yeah.
Okay, good. The movie's amazing. The book is great. And even like one of the best parts, because there's a lot of backstory in the book that isn't in the movie. Um, but one of the best parts of the book is the like kind of the rise of Don Vito Corleone. And then they put that in Godfather 2. So really I feel like I
Mm,
can kind of claim Godfather 1 and 2. But The
mm.
Godfather's an incredible movie, star-studded cast. Um, one of the best book adaptations out there.
See, I I need to rewatch it because I watched it and I don't know if I was in the right mood that day or it's just one of those that has been so hyped up. I went in with such high expectations and I wasn't feeling it. It didn't do it for me that day. So I have not watched the second one. Um, I'll need to wait and give it another shot. But yeah, I I mean, you are picking all the right things for a graphic and a vote. So I am going to go with one um, that I have no idea if it's a faithful adaptation of the book at all, but it's one of my favorite movies just in general, and it is based on a book, and that is The Prestige by
Oh, it is
Christopher
based on
Nolan.
like I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Um, I found out when I was doing my draft prep that it is based on a book. I'm like,
What's
oh,
the name of the
yeah,
book?
yes, The Prestige,
Okay. Who
and it's
wrote
by
that?
Christopher Priest.
Okay.
So, um, I honestly think that is my favorite Christopher Nolan movie,
Yeah,
The
I
Prestige,
agree.
because I feel like his Batman series is great. I personally actually like Batman Begins better than The Dark Knight. Like if Heath Ledger's Joker performance is not in The Dark Knight, it does not get nearly the praise that it
No,
does. Like
no.
structurally and everything, Batman Begins is a better movie than The Dark Knight. But Heath Ledger as the Joker is just one of the greatest performances of all time.
Yeah.
Um, but The Prestige,
And the cinematography of The Dark Knight is incredible. Like
yeah,
what
Chris.
he was
That's one thing
doing,
Christopher Nolan always does. Like every
beautifully
one of his
shot.
movies,
Beautifully
even
shot.
his earlier ones, lower budget ones, like Memento. I love
Mhm.
Memento. Um, it's just he has a great eye. He is very just I don't know. I watched Oppenheimer today. I did the Barbenheimer thing. I saw Barbie with the wife and then Oppenheimer with a friend with 4 beers in between. And so it was a fun experience. And even like Oppenheimer, it's what she said that there's no CGI shots
Unbelievable.
with it.
How do you like recreate the
Like
Trinity test without CGI?
right.
Unbelievable.
And so I saw people saying that there's like things that are probably computer enhanced, but everything is
Hmm.
an actual effect. And it is just such a beautiful movie. And it's 3 hours long and it did not feel like it,
Hmm.
which is impressive. If you can make a 3 hour movie that keeps me sitting there, I had to go to the bathroom and I didn't want to leave. So I sat there far longer than I should have. Um, but yeah, but the Prestige, just Hugh Jackman's performance in it, Christian Bale's performance, like it is fantastically like all of his other movies. It's beautifully shot. It is so intense, keeps you locked in throughout the whole thing. And even when you learn the twist and what it is, like I still love it every time I rewatch it. Like I feel like there's some movies that have a twist at the end that once you know the twist, like it doesn't hit the same when you rewatch it. But for me,
Yeah.
the Prestige still does.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's one of the most rewarding rewatches. And it's also I love getting to watch Prestige with people who don't know
Mm-hmm.
what's coming
Yep.
because it does a great job holding that suspense. It does a great job like pulling on those heartstrings and keeping you like invested the whole time. I
Mm-hmm.
agree. That's my favorite Nolan movie as well. Uh people, I know a lot of people that would put Inception over The Prestige, and I just
Agreed. I haven't
don't agree.
rewatched Inception in a
It's
long
good.
time, but
I just rewatched it a couple years ago, and it's good, but it's I think Prestige is better.
yeah,
Also, on the topic of Batman, Nolan's Batman, I think that what he was doing with Batman kind of like falls down in my valuation too after the Robert Pattinson Batman. I thought it did the
hmm,
brooding Batman even more consistently. It made more sense
yeah,
with Reckless. Like I thought that Batman might have been better than any of Nolan's.
I do
Um,
too.
and
I've
so
always said
IMDb having The Dark Knight as the third best movie of all time is ridiculous. It
I
should be a
agree.
crime. The government should prosecute and step in because this can't happen. You're lying to generations of people.
I I've long said, and it's just to the random people that I make listen to me, but I feel like Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy, they are fantastically shot movies. They're beautiful movies. They're good movies. They're absolutely garbage Batman movies. Um, because there's very little of Batman being Batman. And when he is, the like when you go back and see some, or if you see it isolated, the choreographed fights of Batman being Batman so slow and so painful to watch. Like especially like
Yeah.
even just taking out the
It's
score
it's like going
that
back to rewatch the original Star Wars trilogy.
yeah,
So I like look, man, we're in the minority here. If you
mm-hmm,
don't like our opinion, let Matt know in the comments.
yeah,
I'm
let
not
me
going
know
to
in
be
the
reading.
comments. I'll engagement fish. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it's your pick for your second to last one, your fourth
Perfect.
pick.
Because now I'm going to pick one of my favorite movies. And this is one of the few on the list that I haven't read the book, but I love this movie so much that I don't care. The book I've heard is kind of just like pulpy and not great. But I'm going with Jurassic Park.
I have that one.
Spielberg, the effects stand up. The
Yeah,
suspense is incredible. What Spielberg was able to do both with Jurassic Park and with Jaws, and just like taking your attention and like holding you in suspense, even if there's no threat that materializes. He keeps you on the edge of your seat the entire time. I think it revolutionized uh special effects. It was a whole different kind of thriller. Uh and it's one of those movies that absolutely holds up both in story, acting, cinematography, special effects. To this day, Jurassic Park, a near flawless film.
yeah, I agree. I just rewatched it earlier this year. Um, I decided to rewatch all of the movies in preparation for the new one, and then I never watched the new one. Um, because those I've been let down by the Jurassic World movies.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the Jurassic Park movies in general have gotten progressively worse. Um, the first Jurassic World, it had some of that. Oh, my mind is fried from being at movies for 6 hours today. Um, and some of that, not tenseness,
Je ne
intensity,
sais
whatever you
quoi.
want to say. Yeah, that. With the Indominus Rex at points. But it's nowhere near like the Raptors in the first one. And just like the kind of the terror, the horror elements even of that, and the dread, that sense of danger just hanging over the whole thing is just not there in the newer series.
No, it really wasn't there even after the first, like the sequels, like
Mm-hmm.
Jurassic Park 2 and 3.
Right.
Even those didn't have capture the same feel. So, but
Yeah.
Jurassic Park will always be a special movie. That's one of the greatest.
Agreed. All right. My second to last one. I am going to go with let me go with it. The new versions of it.
You a big
Um
Stephen King fan?
No, but I know people who are. The books have some weird shit in them, man.
Yeah.
Um,
I
but
I think The Shining was a better Stephen King movie adaptation than it.
I don't like The Shining as much. I
Okay.
like the newer versions of it. I forget the Andy Muschietti, I think is who it is. I want to say, who did it because he's the guy who did The Flash, which just got yeah, Andy Muschietti. He did a great job with it. Bill Skarsgård did a fantastic job as Pennywise, and it was one movie where like the child actors didn't annoy the shit out of me because
Yeah.
generally movies where child actors are the main focal points just bugs me because usually they are cringy to watch or just annoying as fuck. And I felt like all of these ones were solid. I think it has a couple of the kids from Stranger Things in it, even. But
I think
the
Lucas.
first one
I
in
don't know the
particular,
actor's name, but I think it's Lucas, right? From
um,
Stranger
I think
Things.
he's in it. I think Finn Wolfhard is also in it.
Okay. That's probably
Yeah,
who I was
Finn
thinking it was.
Wolfhard is in it. Yeah. Um,
Mike.
but yeah, particularly the part one of the new movies, since we're just doing one movie of each. The second one, I didn't care for as much, but the first one I thought was great. So I'm going with that for my second to last one.
Okay.
Now it's your final
Strong.
pick of the
This is
regular
tough.
draft.
Man, I got a lot left on my list, but I think I'm gonna. What are the bonus categories we're gonna go for?
Bad and then TV series.
Tough. And musical, right? We got to do like
Yeah, we
best
can do a musical one.
book to
Yeah,
musical.
book to
So I'm
musical
gonna
one as
I'm
well.
gonna I'm gonna do one that's certainly not on your list. I'm gonna go, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Hmm.
So, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou is an adaptation or an interpretation of Homer's Odyssey.
Mm-hmm.
And it's once again, it's the Coen brothers. The soundtrack's incredible. George Clooney delivers that type of humor just perfectly. And it's an incredible movie based on one of the most important books of all time. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou rounds out my five. Graphic be damned.
No, I think your first four saved you, so I think you'll be okay. Um, that's a solid pick. I don't remember anything about that movie because the one time I watched it, I was otherwise occupied. So I
Say more.
it was in Des Moines and I was with
Say less, say
my
less, say less. I don't want to know. I blocked that one out. Oh,
that's the only time that movie has been on in my vicinity and I
that's one of
remember like
that's
nothing about it. Oh. Yeah. Anyways,
bad times. All right, moving on.
moving on. For my final, I've got like 10 things here still I can pick. And I'm trying to think if I want to graphic pander. Um hmm, you know what? Honestly, I think for my final one, I'm gonna go with Oppenheimer. It's a biopic, but it's based
Oh, good
on the
lord.
book American Prometheus. It was fantastic. Or is that cheating? So this is not publicly available yet. I mean, unless you're going to the theater
It's
to show it.
definitely cheating.
Okay. I'll go with the backup. That'll be an honorable mention then.
No,
Oppenheimer
no,
will be
no.
an,
That's fine. That's fine.
yeah.
It's your show. Do what you want.
No, I'll make it an honorable mention because you're right that you didn't even have the chance to see it or draft it. So that is an unfair advantage for me. Um, I am going to go with let's be a weird pick. I'm gonna go with Mean Girls for
A weird pick.
my final one. Mean Girls, I think, is still just it's a great comedy. It holds up. It's got so many quotable lines. It spawned a good musical adaptation of a movie, which is adapted from a book. and now they're doing a movie version of the musical. So it's all sorts of Inception type of Mean Girls. I'm gonna go with Mean Girls for my final one.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That
It's
is a
based
weird
on
pick.
the nonfiction book, Wannabes, Queen Bees and Wannabes.
I I think Amy Poehler in her role as Regina George's mom
Mm-hmm.
is hysterical.
Oh yeah,
She's Amy Poehler is one of those people that can find a way to be funny in just about every context.
yeah. I
or or that scene when they're all like in the gym and the guys wearing the hoodie. She doesn't even go here.
yeah, it has
Great
just
stuff.
so many great moments in it, and so yeah, Mean Girls.
All right, all
That's
right.
my final one. So
Should we should we just kind of rapid fire some of the ones that were left on the board though?
we should, because I'm here. Rayleigh always, she's like, that's cheating to get more out here, and I'm like, well, we can, and she's not here, so I say we do.
Yeah.
So you give me some of your ones. You give me your honorable mentions, then I'll do some of mine,
All right.
and we
Hunger
can
Games.
discuss.
Hunger Games, really good books, great movies. I mean, for what they are, for an adaptation of like a
Young
dystopic
adult
teen book, young
novels.
adult novel, great.
Yeah,
Um, I think Holes. Once again, the young adult Holes is
forgot that was
great.
based on a
Shia
book.
LaBeouf. Really,
Le
the one
Bouf.
thing they changed, LaBeouf, the one thing they changed in Holes the movie versus Holes the book is they didn't have Shia LaBeouf's character go in overweight and then lose weight throughout
Oh,
his time
interesting.
because the director said, no, that's horrible to do to a kid's body. Like, we're
That's
not
fair.
going to do that. And like, that was like the one thing that's different. All Quiet on the Western Front, both the 1930 and the 2022 version,
Hmm.
they're very different. One's more faithful to the book, the more just takes kind of motifs and tries to
Which
paint
one's more
a picture.
faithful?
1930.
Okay.
2022, they kind of take like characters and scenes and use it to kind of tell their own story. Because if they were going to do the whole kind of the narrative of the book, it'd be too much for a movie. Wizard of Oz. The
Yep.
book's kind of weird, but the movie defined like, oh, and it's one of the classics.
Yep.
Call Me by Your Name.
I haven't
Great
seen that
book.
movie yet.
Timothy Chalamet.
And the
Uh,
cannibal.
yeah. Oh,
She
I
eats
watched that
people
movie
now.
on a plane. Does he now?
Army.
I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
Army Hammer. That's what he was coordinating with women to do sketchy shit. And now he sells like timeshares at some random place. Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
So I would like uh my comments stricken from the record. No, it's okay. It's still a great movie. I
That's
watched that on a plane and it
yeah.
was a little bit weird at times. Um, but it was great. And so that's my left on the
Okay.
board.
Um Ones I had left on the board were The Princess Bride. I
Yeah.
feel like
Yep.
it's a
I
fun
hadn't read
movie.
the book, so it's a great movie.
Yeah.
I hadn't read the
Um
book, so I didn't want to put that up there.
it's fair. Die Hard is based on a book.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's based on the book Nothing Lasts Forever by Roderick Thorpe.
Okay.
Um, Dune, the Denny
Yeah.
Villeneuve, the
I
new
haven't
one.
seen it yet. Yeah.
Um, I think it's good. It had a lot. It's a good setup movie. Like it's beautifully shot. He's another director that
Yeah.
almost everything he does. Like I'm
Was he Revenant?
disappointed it took me so long. Was he which one?
The Revenant?
Ooh, possibly. He did Arrival,
Okay.
which is great. Let me find out. Blade Runner 2049, Arrival, Dune, Sicario, Enemy, Prisoners.
Oh,
Prisoners
Sicario
is
is great.
he did not do The Revenant. Who did The
No.
Revenant? That was Alejandro Inarritu. He's who did Birdman
Yeah, okay.
and stuff. But yeah. Um, so it's fantastic. I had Prisoners on there. It is a very intense movie. It is fantastic. Jake Gyllenhaal and Hugh Jackman. Um, who is the other dad in it? I don't remember. It's based on a
Liam
short
Neeson.
story by Aaron Guzikowski, who ended up being the screenwriter, but it is inspired by an Edgar Allan Poe story, The Telltale Heart. So that was on there. And then, as I mentioned before, Oppenheimer. And then also, so movie that I decided to watch last night because it was coming up on a bunch of lists of like best book movie adaptations, um, was Room with Brie
Oh,
Larson and Jacob Tremblay. And man, it was good, but it is so like heartbreaking. It's so sad. Like it, so
see,
I couldn't pick it on
last
my
night I
list,
watched
but
The
it was
Thing.
so good.
Yeah. And
The
I don't think there's a
original one,
book of The Thing. Yeah. Is there a new one? I didn't know
they
there was a
did
new one.
one like I mean now it was like 5 or 6 years ago, which
Yeah,
is
no, the
people
1982 Kurt
hated, but
Russell.
yeah,
Oh man, so good.
never watched it.
But I don't think there was a book.
Yeah, yeah, but Room was really good, and Brie Larson is fantastic in it, and it just makes me wonder like why the fuck is she doing Marvel movies now? And I know the
She
answers because you get paid a shitload. Um,
great
but
exposure.
she was so good in that movie. And I usually hate kid actors, but Jacob Tremblay in it was actually pretty solid. I hated him at points, but it was just a really intense movie and just everything because stories there kept in a shed and it's inspired by a true story kind of, but it's based on the book written by Emma Donoghue, her novel, and they're just they live in the shed that they call a room, and that's all this 5-year-old knows because he was born there because the kidnapper had other sketchy intentions. This mom had been kidnapped for 7 years, and then they like escape and readjusting and stuff like that. And it was a great movie, but it's like it's one of those that's like I don't know that I could watch that again. Like I went to see the musical Jagged Little Pill, and I think I told you about it, the Alanis Morissette one, and it
Hmm.
was really good, but it's just so heavy. Like the main themes of it that it deals with are like sexual assault and drug abuse, and it doesn't
Yeah.
really necessarily have a happy ending. I'm like that was good, but it's just left just feeling heavy. I'm like that's
Yeah.
not one I necessarily want to sign up for all the time.
Yeah.
Um, let's do let's do musicals next. So favorite, I think I know which one you're gonna go with, and that's why you were asking. So you didn't pick it for your fifth one, and you are technically still first. So I will let you pick it.
So, well, this isn't why I asked.
Mhm.
I think because I put Les Mis as one of my favorite um musicals,
Mhm.
I should choose that. But if it was just normal movie, I actually think the 1998 Liam Neeson Les Mis isn't too bad as an adaptation of the novel.
Yeah.
Um, it's pretty good, but the musical does such a great job of taking the meat from what is a way too long, way too like involved novel and turning it into a really great musical.
Yeah.
But so that's 1A, but 1B for me is The Lion King,
Mm.
which is of course an adaptation from Hamlet.
Mm-hmm.
Um and so if I can take one of your possible that's my
That
choice. Les Mis and my honorable mention.
those weren't gonna be neither one of those were gonna be mine. So I'll allow it. Um, I think so I'm gonna go with for the musical. It's between two for me, so I'm gonna do as well. Um, I'm gonna go with Wicked actually. Um, an honorable mention. We got a couple, but Wicked. Now that I've seen it on stage, I
Uh,
feel okay, like I can take it. Like before, just listening to the soundtrack, I'm like, I don't feel like I could have picked that. But it's such a fun show, adapted from a very like honestly a very dense book. Like the book deals with a lot of
Weird, man.
political and religious
It's
things,
weird.
and there's like, I mean, it's basically like a Munchkin sex club at one point, and like just some weird shit. And they
That's what
adapt
worries
it in
about me about
what?
them splitting the movie in two. That's what worries me about them splitting the movie into two different movies is they're going to bring a lot of that weird stuff that was rightfully left on the cutting room floor for the musical back into the movie.
That's that's fair. And there's some stuff that I think I would be okay with them bringing back in a way. I think like the clock of the time. Did you read the book then? Or you
I
just
Yeah,
no? Okay,
I read enough of it. I
enough of
didn't
it.
I didn't get through.
Like the clock of the time dragon stuff. Um, I think without the weird sex stuff, with it, you could
Keep it
bring it,
in. Keep it in.
you can bring it into the movies and make it interesting because it's on this in the stage production. The time dragon clock is part of the set, and
Yeah.
so it's up there, but then it's never referenced or mentioned, or maybe mentioned in passing once. So there's stuff they can bring in, and I mean the musical is like 2.5 hours long, and my biggest thing is if you're splitting it into two, I feel like you need to make sure you're keeping all of the original songs from it. Like you can't be cutting songs and then adding new ones and still splitting into two movies. um
Yeah.
like
Little
that was one of my,
Mermaid. Take notes.
yeah. John M. Chu did reply to one of our tweets once. So or his intern replied to one of our tweets once. So there's that. And I don't know, things
His
I've been
mom.
seeing
He doesn't even have an intern.
he did Crazy Rich Asians. He has an intern.
Oh, that's
Uh
fair. Uh,
uh
what did you think of the movie? I haven't seen the movie, but I thought the book was pretty entertaining.
of Crazy Rich Asians.
Mm-hmm.
Um I don't remember much about it. I enjoyed it for what it was. Ultimately, it's not a movie for me though, so my opinion doesn't really matter. I thought it was well done.
Because you're
It
not
was well
crazy rich.
directed. Exactly. I thought it was very well directed. I thought it was a very fun movie, entertaining. It wasn't like one of my top ones of the year, and it's not one I'm drawn to going back to. I thought like John M. Chu, he also did the In the Heights musical adaptation,
Yeah.
directed that, which there were things I really liked about it and things I kind of disliked about it. Um,
Yeah. I
and
would rather just watch the recorded stage performance than a
that's one thing we
movie version.
talk about a lot too, is that usually that's just it's better. It gives you that feel more. Things when you try to turn what worked as a good stage musical into a movie, it just feels like overbloated or forced, or like Dear Evan Hansen,
There's
they
also
cut
like
out some of the better songs, and then it just doesn't feel authentic, as weird as
there's a
that
level
sounds.
of ridiculousness inherent in any musical, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
the like we're breaking into like song and dance. That's just patently unrealistic, and it's made for the stage. But when you overly like you make the setting overly realistic, then all of a sudden
Mm-hmm.
the massive dance numbers and the song, it feels out of place. It's too
Right.
real.
Right. And that's what, have you seen the preview for the new Willy Wonka movie? Or
Uh-oh,
Wonka with
another.
Timothy Chalamet? It's a they're doing it
Timothy.
as a, yeah, they're doing it
Timothy.
as a musical, and it seems, I don't know, the trailer, it seems rough. Like he's trying to do almost like a hybrid, it feels like, of Johnny Depp's and
Gene Wilder.
yes, thank you, Gene Wilder. And it's supposedly going to be a musical. It's from the director of Paddington, which apparently those movies are great.
Paddington is
Never seen them.
awesome.
Never seen it.
Paddington kicks
But
ass.
yeah, so I don't know. I'll give it a shot. But the initial trailer, and it's Hugh Grant as a Oompa Loompa. Um,
Did you just say Hugh Grant as
yes,
an
he is the
Oompa
Oompa
Loompa?
Loompa at the end of the trailer.
Oompa
Um,
Loompa
their
Doompity
tag
Doo.
their
Just
tagline is discover how Willie became Wonka. And that's a stupid ass tagline. I hate it so much. Um,
that sounds like a movie
Yeah.
that's also for the girls and gays.
Yes. Um, but yeah, musicals that I had at my honorable mentions, Hamilton was the other one I was debating
Because the
between Hamilton
Chernow
and Wicked.
biographies
Yeah,
are like that's cheating. That's different.
but it's also based on Burr, which is the slightly more fictionalized novelization about Aaron Burr. It's a mix
Did
of those
Chernow
two.
do that as well?
No, that was by. Let me remember. I picked it up and I have not read it yet. I don't remember who it's by, but now I need to find out. Burr.
Nice.
Now it's wanting to autocrat to Gore Vidal,
Or
which that name
okay.
sounds familiar. I feel like he's done other stuff. Um, it wanted
I hear
to.
Gore Vidal and I think Gal Gadot, so that tells me I don't know that name.
Mm, that's fair. Um,
It's Godot too. I shouldn't have mispronounced. Sorry.
yes, good.
Um. So are we
Another.
moving on then to shows, or you got another musical?
Oh, I said other musical. Gore Vidal. I only know his name. He only writes like historical things. Apparently, he did a Lincoln one, other stuff like that. Other musicals I had Pitch Perfect, based on a book.
Is it?
Um, yeah, it's
Who
based on
knew?
Pitch Perfect, The Quest for Collegiate Acapella Glory by Mickey Rapkin. It's a
Look
nonfiction
at
book.
you picking all these books that no one's ever heard of.
Well,
You
we
might not
did.
read books, but you read Google.
That's right. Well, we discussed it on our Pitch Perfect episode. The book doesn't even have a Wikipedia page. Like I could find like nothing out about this book
Oh my
except that it
gosh.
exists and it follows like three different acapella groups. And then recently, Phantom of the Opera, based on a book as well.
Mhm.
And then recently, I've been enjoying the cast album and soundtrack for the musical Be More Chill, which is based on a book. But that's
Oh,
fun. It's kind of like um, they described in one of the things as Little Shop of Horrors meets The Matrix meets Mean Girls. It's fun.
that sounds like a
Um,
lot.
yeah.
All
Let's
right.
do TV series now, and then we'll discuss some of the worst
All right.
adaptations.
So I'll only say one so that I won't step on your toes, but then we should say some honorable mentions because there's some really
Yeah.
good ones.
Yeah, I've got quite a few.
Um, okay. Okay. Uh I'm just gonna go strong. I'm gonna go with Sherlock, the BBC Sherlock. I think Benedict Cumberbatch uh is unbelievable as Sherlock. I think that those are gripping. They pick some of the best Sir Arthur Conan Doyle Sherlock Holmes stories,
Mm-hmm.
and it made one of the most entertaining TV series, like a short run TV series. Period.
Yeah.
But Sherlock,
Yeah. And they modernized the stories great and made them
yeah,
unique, but still kept the heart and everything. Yeah. Sherlock, I felt like the last series of it kind of fell off a little bit for me. But I need to go back and rewatch those because those were great. I am gonna go with Game of Thrones.
I knew
I
you would.
know it fell off a little bit towards the end when they didn't have the books to adapt anymore because he's taking forever to write them. But
He's gonna
um
die before those things are out.
yeah, yeah. He's working on like 4 spin-off series. But the first season specifically, the first season follows the first book so closely. Like I watched the show first and then I went and read the books and I've only read like 3 of them. But and it does start veering more and cutting things out because the books are each like 1,200 pages.
Dude, I
um
tried to grab the first Game of Thrones on an audiobook
mhm.
and I started the audiobook and it was 40 hours long.
Yeah,
That's a work week. And I was like,
yeah,
there's no way. I didn't like the show that much. Like, there's
yeah,
no way I'm sticking with the book. So
yeah.
that's a
The
lot.
books are really good, but it splits them up by following each character. And so I've been told like the last 2 books, they're happening at the same time, but what's going on with different characters in each one. And for me, that would be like just so hard to keep track of and follow. So I haven't gotten there, but series is great. Some honorable mentions for me. I was debating between Game of Thrones and Dexter. Um,
Mhm.
Dexter's based on the Darkly Dreaming Dexter book series by Jeff Lindsay, which I have not read any of. And I don't think it follows it particularly closely, or if anything follows it closely. I think it's more inspired the character, and the vibe of it's the same. That's another one. The finale wasn't great, but overall, really enjoyed that show. Mindhunter on Netflix with Jonathan Groff and I forget the other guy's name. But that really good. I had Sherlock on my list. The Watchmen HBO series was really good. It's more just like inspired by it and very loosely attached. It's pretty much its own thing versus the graphic novel. Sharp Objects was a really good HBO miniseries. It's not book. And then Amazon
Reacher.
Prime's Reacher. Yep,
Yeah.
that's the one I had. That I've
Reacher's
heard.
great.
I haven't read those books. But I know people when the Tom Cruise movies came out, people were mad. They're like, he is not what that character is described as. It's
The
supposed to be
dude's six
at all.
five.
Yeah.
The dude is a mountain in the books, and then he is in the TV series. It's
Yeah.
great.
Alan Richardson is
But
great.
also on Prime, the Jack Ryan,
Yeah. I haven't
adapted from
watched
the
that yet.
Tom Clancy. Yeah, Jim Halpert, man, holding it down. But also, Colson Whitehead's book, The Underground Railroad, was adapted by Amazon Prime,
Hmm.
and that's a tough watch. I didn't get
Yeah.
through it. I didn't have the stomach, but like, it's a great show. Really good uh book that was also then turned into a TV series. TV series also 2018, 2019, BBC came out with a Les Mis TV
Hmm.
series that
I
was
did
really
not know
good.
that.
It's awesome. And then Matt, do you know who the best-selling author of all time is? And unlike what we were told as kids, it's not God.
Oh, damn. I was going to say God. Um, who?
Agatha Christie.
Interesting.
Agatha Christie's great. So she wrote, I mean,
Did she
dozens
write
of
those,
books.
the Murder on the
Death,
Orient
yeah,
Express?
Murder on the
Those
Orient
are her.
Express, Death on the
Okay.
Nile, and my favorite, And Then There Were None. And there was a
That doesn't sound familiar.
1945 movie that was great. It's amazing. I'm not going to give anything away. Read the book, watch the movie, but specifically watch the BBC show. It was like a 2-season, one or two
Okay.
season, like a limited run BBC show of And Then There Were None. And
Okay.
Agatha Christie, so good. But Matt, I
Okay.
think it's time we get to the
The
book to movie
worst.
adaptations that can fuck right off.
Yes. I'll let you start because I think I know what you're going to start with. So go.
I Am Legend, you can fuck right off.
That's fair. I really like that was it was a short story, wasn't it?
Uh,
Or maybe it
would
was a
you say a
novella.
novella?
I would say a novella. But yeah, because I remember reading that and
Great.
really
It's a
liked it. And then I saw the
vampire
movie
book.
and I'm like, this is not the same thing. Um, Especially the ending.
The
Uh,
world building was really cool. It's like Will Smith and his dog, and just like the bombed out husk of, the zombied out husk of New York City. Cool. But everything else from there was just horrible. And the book was this great, like, the guy realizes that maybe like he's been hating these people so long, maybe he's the monster. And then like
mm-hmm.
really fascinating uh kind of a
Character
message. And
studies. Yeah.
it just turns into a run-of-the-mill and kind of dumb zombie movie
Yeah.
for the Will Smith movie. So I Am Legend, bad.
Fair.
What's yours?
Um,
What would you say?
well, I think we can tag team the Hobbit together after this, but my original one is going to be Aragon
Yep, that was next on mine too.
because
Oh,
when I first read them, and I just recently, I've been listening through the audiobooks and I'm on the final one now. I'm on the fourth one. Um, and really enjoyed them. They're fun fantasy novels, really cool world.
not winning any Pulitzers, let's be honest.
No,
They're not groundbreaking prose or anything,
no,
but like
it's
they're
fantasy.
good.
It's fun. Yeah, it's doesn't touch Lord of the Rings at all or anything in that
No,
realm,
but
but it's
the
fun,
movie
a
was
really cool world.
unwatchable.
Right. Has a lot of promise. But yeah, I rewatched that movie lately and it is dog shit. They turned what is a very like kind of intense story and world that like should be at minimum PG-13. They made it a PG movie. They turned like one of the main villains in this as this species this called the Urgles, which are big creatures with
They got
horns and everything like
horns.
that. And in this, they're just humans with face paint, like fat humans with face paint. Um, it has a fantastic
No,
cast that they
it's
just
like any bar in Middle America. That's who the Urgles are.
it's true. It's now the Proud Boys are what the Urgles are. Um,
Wow,
and
you're sounding
so
like a woke dickhead here.
yeah, I know. I'll be my woke dickheadness, but like it has a great cast, like Jeremy Irons in it as Braun, and then John Malkovich is in this
I
as
don't know,
the
man.
big
I have a
guy.
hard time taking him seriously. He was
Oh, I do
perfect in
too.
Red because he's supposed to be a little like out of hand, but him being this like brooding emperor,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like,
No,
oh
he was
man, cheesy.
miscast horribly in that role. But it's
That
got Jaimin Hansu in it, and it's got Rachel Weisz in it, and it's got like Garrett Hedlund is in like he's not like a great actor or anything, but he's like a you've seen him in things, you'd recognize him. And it's just I don't know.
there's
It
a
just fell so short.
16 on Rotten Tomatoes. Do you know how bad you have to have a
Yeah, is
16?
bad. It supposedly they're in development, like early development, in a series for Disney Plus, which Disney Plus's stuff has been mostly misses in my opinion. So I don't have a ton of faith for it, but the author Christopher Paolini, he's involved in with it.
Because he begged
So
them.
we'll see.
He got on
Yeah.
Twitter and just begged them. It was a little
Oh,
pathetic.
you know what else? I'm going to go back to the TV series a little bit. Because this is a book series I read a lot as a teenager. Was the Alex Rider series, and there's an Alex Rider TV series
Pretty good.
that is IMDb TV did, and it's actually really good. The movie sucked ass. That's another one that can fuck right off. The Alex Rider
Stormbreaker.
movie, Operation Stormbreaker.
The movie
It
was
has
so
Alicia
bad it made me.
Silverstone in it.
Yeah.
It's got
The
Alex
movie was
Pettyfer, who
so
went on to
bad.
star in Magic Mike. Um,
Good for him.
yeah, but
But
yeah, the
no,
movie
the
sucked.
Alex Rider movie was so bad that it made me second guess whether or not the book was any good. That's how bad the movie was.
That's fair. And I mean, those books are ones that are definitely like they're teen books. Like I
Yeah.
went back to read some of them and I'm like, yeah, they're not great, but they're fun. It's like a more like a teenage fun James Bond.
Pretty
And
horny for
they
like
are pretty horny for what they are for being written by a grown adult man. Um,
yeah, about teenagers.
yeah,
That's one of the things that pings for me. It's just like, man, he's talking about like how bad this
things
16
like
year old boy
15.
wants this 15-year-old girl. Like,
Yeah.
you're a
Yeah.
4-year-old man. Maybe pick a different career.
But the
All
TV
right.
series is a lot less horny. It's more in the action. It doesn't have as many of the like outlandish, fantastical gadgets or whatever that the book
That's good.
series did,
That's
but it has some of them that it's still a somewhat faithful adaptation of it. So yeah, that series really good. It's on Amazon Prime. You can watch it. So recommend that. There's 2 seasons out right now, but um, yeah,
so so we don't need to spend much time on The Hobbit because I think it's been well covered. For whatever The Lord of the Rings was, The Hobbit wasn't.
yep,
If in The Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson made all the right decisions and what to keep and what to drop, he made all the wrong ones in The Hobbit. If
mm-hmm.
his special and practical effects in The Lord of the Rings were brilliant, they were regressive in The
Yeah,
Hobbit.
it's a
Every
distracting
single
in the
one.
Hobbit. The
Yeah,
special effects are distracting.
every single movie in The Hobbit is a step away from quality, step away from the books, step away from anything
Mm-hmm.
watchable. So come on, Peter, do better.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I
do you have
went back to try to rewatch them because I'm like, I haven't watched them since I saw them in theaters. Um, and I can do it. I
I
got
took
about
my
half an hour in. I think part of it for me too is everything just looks so polished and clean with it. Like when all the dwarfs come in to Bilbo's house and they're doing that whole thing. And that's where I stopped watching. Like they all just look so clean and polished, and mm, it just I don't like it. Takes me out of it.
No,
It
no,
sucks.
it wasn't good. And so sorry, Peter, didn't work for me.
Yep.
Another on my miss is this might be a little more controversial. Boz Luhrmann's Great Gatsby, 2013, I think it was, the
No,
one
I'm
with
with you on that.
Leo.
I'm
Like
not a big
I
Boz
can get
Luhrmann
into it.
fan.
I'm not either.
His
It doesn't
style,
work for me.
I haven't
It
watched
doesn't. And
Elvis
so
yet. But it was a point of contention between Rayleigh and I on the Moulin Rouge episode. Which it's grown on me a little bit afterwards, but it's just so jarring. Like tonally, his directorial style is just so jarring and in your face that I think you either love it or hate it, and I'm more on the hate it side.
same, same. And I love the book. The book is great. He does some
Mm,
things with the framing that screws with the book. So like Nick starts them his recollections aren't organic. They come from like him being in a psychiatric ward. I
mm,
was like, I don't know, that changes so much.
yeah,
Yeah, I didn't get down with it. I love Jay-Z, but Jay-Z for the soundtrack with the visuals didn't do it for me. Sorry,
yeah,
Boz. Uh Gatsby didn't do it.
yeah. Um, One I had on here that I don't think I ever watched the whole thing, but Gulliver's Travels with Jack Black. Um, that it was. I love Jack Black, but I couldn't make it through that movie. Um, it's
You
rough.
know, Jack Black's mom was instrumental in getting the astronauts on the Apollo 13 back home.
What?
Yep.
Interesting.
Jack Black's mom is a genius.
Really?
And he went on to be a singing comedian. So,
Yeah,
like, man, just goes to show uh, do what you want to be.
that's
Shoot for
right.
the moon, you'll land among the stars.
That's right. We can all
Or
disappoint our
safely in the
parents.
ocean if Jack Black's mom's on the case.
That's right. That's right. Um, I don't have any others. I heard the Dark Tower adaptation
There were
sucks, but I never read it
Yeah,
and
there's
I
a
never
lot that
watched the
like
movie.
I hadn't read the book, and so I know like the Divergent movies I thought sucked pretty hard.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked the book Ready Player One, and I
Hmm.
decided just not to watch the movie because I heard it didn't hold up. Also, same with Percy Jackson's. I'm just doing the Percy
Yeah.
Jackson movies right now with my oldest, and the books are fun for
Yeah.
like kids
They're
books.
doing a Disney Plus
I have them.
series of
Yeah,
that has a
I
solid
think that'll be good.
cast.
I
So,
think that'll be good. So that about does it for my list. I think we hit
okay.
just about everything.
Well, we'll see who people side with on the graphics with the handful of people that engage. I think you've got it. To
Yeah.
recap Brad's list, he got Fellowship of the Ring, The Prisoner of Azkaban, The Godfather, Jurassic Park, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? For the TV series, he got Sherlock, and for musical, he got Les Mis and The Lion King's honorable mention. I got Fight Club, No Country for Old Men, The Prestige, It, Mean Girls. My musical, I went with Wicked, and TV show, I went with Game of Thrones. So, and the my honorable mention musical was Hamilton. So,
Man,
solid
you're going
list.
down.
I think I'm going down. Um, I'm happy with my list. If I had to choose to just watch the five movies on one of our lists, I'm gonna choose mine any day of the week, and that's why I picked what I picked. So I'm happy with it. I'm not upset. You getting Fellowship, that one stunk, but I knew that was coming when you got first pick. So all right. Any last final thoughts before we sign off?
Um, no.
Okay. Well, Thanks for joining. Next week will be a mini episode. No idea what I'm going to do for that yet. I might do mini reviews of Barbie and Oppenheimer and maybe Indiana Jones, the Dial of Destiny, for good measure. Throw that one in there. So that'll do it for us. And stay tuned to our Instagram socials for updates on what's to come. And make sure to let us know in the comments or on Instagram who you think won. And tell us what 5 you would have picked, what you think are the best booked movie adaptations. So with that, don't forget to go down once more. Later.